Ladies and gentlemen, to this best of 3 series between Joke Gaming and Exertus Esports. My name is Verius. Join with me is the beautiful and wonderful Sona to bring you this game 2 of the series. How did you feel about this series? How are you feeling about this game coming into game 2?
Well, I think this series has been really exciting thus far. It doesn't sound so from my voice, but I think I'm actually losing my voice a little bit. I haven't cast in quite a while, and then I was just so enthralled by that last game that my voice got carried away with me. However, Verius, I do want to bring you up on one thing that you said about the last game.
Yes.
You said Scott had been playing really well, and we all said that, but you also said that Jokerism was really bad. I think I disagree with that. I don't think that Jokerism was as bad as you made him out to be, Verius.
That's not a quote. That is not. I just want to capitalize here. Jokerism had an unlucky time with the amount of pressure that Dan.
Did he have lags as well? He was
probably
unlucky
had a bit of lag. With the amount of pressure that Dan was able to exert onto the bottom lane of Choke, really choking them out of the laning phase and making their life very difficult. So you have to give a lot of credit to Dan for making Jokerism have a rough game. That's really what happened.
You could even call him Chokerism, couldn't you?
You could call him Chokerism. But
well,
anyway,
speaking of choking, we are about to get into picks and pans for games 2. What will Choke and Dongs pick up here? That's the big question. It's blue side Exertus, purple side Choke, and it's a best of 3. Exertus took the first game. Mim Rain has the first ban. What do you expect to see coming out here, Verius?
There's quite a number of things that they could ban away, but the thing is they may as well stick to what they banned last game. Why fix something that isn't broken? You know, they had a great pick and ban phase work out for them last game, and I wouldn't actually be surprised to see something like the Rek'Sai banned away, simply due to how well Dan actually played on that champion. But we've seen so many different champions come out from Dan in the past. I think banning that away wouldn't really hurt him, but it would potentially deny the early game pressure that he did so phenomenally well on last game.
It definitely would, and it's actually a Morgana ban against Wiz here. One of his strongest supports. He does like that Thresh as well, so has that one in the locker if he wants to pick that up. Jax being banned away. Ginsu's Rage Blade is just rage-inducing more than anything else to watch and to play against. Riven being picked away against from Riven main, who is of course a Riven main.
Wait, he is?
What a surprise! What a surprise!
I
Can't you tell by the
was
amount
the
of
Riven
salt
main
that you can feel through the... Like, it's so much sweat coming through the screen when he plays his Riven. Just a very, very sweaty player.
Right now, though, Tam Kench is going to be the third and final ban. Coming out for Exertus, not really a surprise. I'm curious as to see what they decide to first pick. The Rek'Sai has been left open. We may see that come out very early on from Exertus. Worked out for them fantastically last game, but Elise is still available as well. A champion that has sort of fallen off in the most recent patch. Runeglaive had a very small nerf in the sense that it now costs a lot more money, and the actual ability power that it provides has been reduced. So that is one of the reasons why you're seeing less Elise these days. But she's still a very strong pick, still very easily works into a bunch of different compositions, so that is something that could come out from Exertus. Fiora is another champion that's available, still very strong, and they are hovering over the Teemo, so I don't think that's what they're going to go for. If it is, it would be a very risky pick in the early game. I just think that they're looking to troll his cat. They've locked it in.
Well, that's a thing. So Teemo can be played in the top lane or mid lane. Of course, C9 High, most known for playing it in mid lane when Teemo actually had some damage. Now I expect, well, you can play it as an AD Teemo, you can play it as an AP Teemo, you can basically do what you want with it because no one has any idea what they're meant to do with it. I assume it's not Teemo, but we've yet to be told it's not Teemo.
I've been told it's not real.
Oh, good.
Right, I'm gonna just confirm. Alright, it is the Rek'Sai. Apparently, okay. Rain does not have Rek'Sai, so they had to do a bait. That was really sad because I was sitting there thinking Teemo is super strong at the moment with the changes to Guinsoo's Rage Blades and Hextech Gunblades, and that combination has made Teemo actually really, really strong. But does look like we're going to get trolled, and Moving on from that, we're going to move away from the Teemo now. Let's concentrate more on what has been picked. That is going to be a Rek'Sai in the jungle for Dan. Immediately, Choke are going to respond with an Olaf in the top lane and a Lee Sin in the jungle. Now, Dongs, in the past when we've seen him play, at the very start of Choke's lineup, he was actually their jungler. He did come in from time to time in between him and Plex. And on this Lee Sin, he's going to be looking to make up for what he did not do in the last game.
Yeah.
Last game, he had no early game pressure at all. We said that in the past, well, as a player, Plex was renowned for his early game pressure, and that is a large reason as to why Choke have done so well up until this point. So Dongs is like, right, if we needed to game pressure, I'm going to pick a champion that is perfect for that job. Exertus, on the other hand, going for a very early Aurelia and Vayne pick. Very risky, I feel, and I think it's very risky to pick a Aurelia straight into an Olaf.
The thing is, though, they still have Vayne and Rek'Sai combo. Yes, they're on the other side of the map, so it's a little bit more difficult to get that combo coming in from behind Tribush. But they showed how effective they can be at getting Scott ahead. And if Dan can put some pressure down into the bot lane again, Jokerism's picked up his MF. Yes, Dongs has a bit of an early game jungler this time, so can try and get those counter ganks in. But if Scott starts to get ahead, it's going to be very, very difficult for Choke to win that game.
We are very likely to see a repeat performance of what we saw in the last game. It's all going to be about the junglers this game, I feel. We talked about how Scott played very well. He was out of his mind in that last game, but that was all off the back of the very smart decision-making coming out from Dan. I believe he is the shot caller for Exertus. The macro plays that he was making was fantastic, constantly telling the team where they needed to be, what objectives they can take given the positioning of Choke on the map, and that really propelled them into a great position. Where they struggled was during the mid to late game, where they really weren't sure how to capitalize on the lead that they had, and that allowed Choke to work their way back into it. This game, Choke aren't looking to give Exertus that early lead that they had last game. They're looking to be like, right, we're going to be the ones to get this early lead. We're going to be the ones to propel ourselves into a fantastic early game, look to run away with this game, and prevent Exertus from getting off that great macro play that we saw from them last game.
It's going to be Victor and Thresh, so as we said, Wiz really likes that Thresh pick, played the Vayne Thresh in the last game, can keep that Vayne safe and also pick off players here and there. It's not going to be a Blitzcrank locked in here for the Haddo. He's already got that Alistair for the support along with MF. Alchemist picking Victor blind can be dangerous, but in the current meta, Victor's pretty strong, has that siphon power to help him stay tanky in the lane. Even into an Ahri, he can trade pretty effectively in the early stages of the game, so as long as he's not getting hit by the charms, he should be okay.
And the thing is, this mid lane is definitely going to be an interesting thing to watch because Ravano is playing his famous Ahri. This guy is known for that champion. The last time that we saw him bring it out was against FM, and I believe in that game he solo carried with a score of something like 14, 2, and 10. He played out of his mind that game. It is one of his most comfortable champions. Last game he did perform on that Jace. He had a great game. He was actually about 4,000 gold ahead of his lane counterpart of DX Alchemist, really showing that since he's come into the team, he has been stepping up his play, has been very impactful in the performance of Choke, and now that he's moved back to this Ahri, I think he's going to be feeling way more comfortable, and especially in this matchup against Victor, it's very easy to come out ahead with the ridiculous amount of mobility that you have available to them.
We are just going to quickly run through picks and bans once more. TSM being banned out on the side of Choke. Obviously don't want to face Bjergsen and the gang. Kasing there as well now. Hauntzer.
Who's going to be playing later on today.
Yeah, IEM San Jose up after these games. Make sure you tune in. I think it's from about 6 o'clock, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's very easy for us to prop that because it's more ESL stuff. And ESL,
yeah.
It's speaking of, we should really give a shout out to our fantastic sponsors as they've done a great job of providing this tournament, allowing the UK esports to grow and prosper into the beautiful thing that it is. I believe AOC Monitors, along with Need for Seat, are two of our sponsors. You can remember the other two, I believe, sir.
Well, there's the gorgeous Tornado Energy. No longer do I need to see a generic energy drink when I drink one on stage. I can now drink a delicious Tornado Energy as I'm rocked by the hurricane of my bowels as the caffeine scourges its way through me. Need for Seat as well, as you said. SanDisk makes all of these games run ever so slightly quicker. SSD's very, very good for making your games run quicker, I find.
And
Not making you run quicker though, because you do less exercise, because you're playing more games, you get fat, you feel bad about yourself, and then you need a tornado energy to wake yourself up again and start playing more games. We are just waiting on the spectator delay before we get into this one. Riven into Olaf top. You said it was a brave decision to pick Riven into Olaf. Why is that, Vedius?
Simply because Olaf is considered to be one of the main counter picks into an Aurelia. The thing is, Aurelia is really good at dueling because she has true damage. Her stun makes it very easy for her to get a lot of damage down, while her lane opponent is locked up. There's no way for them to trade back. But obviously, Olaf doesn't suffer from that. When he pops that Ragnarok, there's no way for him to get stunned up. The lower his health, the more DPS he's going to be doing because his attack speed is going to be going up. He's going to be constantly throwing out that undertow. He has true damage for himself, and given the changes to itemization, now that Trinity Force is a little bit weaker and Black Cleaver is a little bit stronger, it just even so slightly more swings in the favor of Olaf. I think this is very risky. I'm not entirely sure why they've decided to do that. The only reason I can really think is that either Mivenrain is very confident on this matchup, he's played it a lot, and he knows how to take advantage with the Aurelia in this lane, or they're going to be looking for a lane swap. Something that we didn't see last game, but we could see this game. When you're running a Vayne, you want to try and get as much farm as possible onto her. You can move her up into the top lane. Towers still die very quickly because of the changes that have been made in patch 5.22, so it's still very easy to get an early tower, and that may very well be something that they go for. So a number of options still available for the side of Choke, and it's simply going to be a matter of how they want to go about it, because they could choose to do exactly what they did last game, get Dan to camp down in the bottom lane, or maybe they change things up. Maybe Dan looks to try and get Mivenrain ahead on that Aurelia. If Aurelia gets a slight lead, it could swing in the favor of that Aurelia matchup. So many options available for Exertus, and I do quite like how well-rounded their composition is.
Really interestingly, I've just looked at masteries, right? And Jokerism on this MF, he's running 18-12, which is what you expect from an AD carry. But instead of going for extra damage in armor penetration, extra points in armor penetration called battering blows, he's instead gone for piercing thoughts, which gives you an extra 7% magic penetration. Now, the reason he's done this, I cannot tell, because ultimate is physical damage. I think his passive is physical damage as well, isn't it? Why would you go for extra magic penetration?
As far as I'm aware, Misfortune has been changed so that she's quite heavily focused onto attack damage now.
Yeah, it's all physical damage. Yeah, I'm looking at the LoL wiki page right now, and the only thing that does magic damage is Make It Rain.
Bullet Time does as well, with a 0.2 ability power scaling.
No, it does physical damage, but has an ability power scaling.
Right, I see what you're saying, yes. So in terms of the magic penetration, that won't actually help at all, because he's not doing any magic damage.
That's a really interesting pickup. Perhaps a mistake. Perhaps Jokerism just knows something we don't.
Unlikely, seeing as we are incredibly knowledgeable. So. But, it's always a possibility. You have to give these UK players some credit.
You did say he was a bad player, so...
Well, again, that's not a quote. I don't want to be quoted in any articles or any reports as saying that I believe Joko had a rough time during the laning phase as a result of Exertus Dan really exerting his pressure down into the bottom lane. He did not have the best performance in Game 1, but he's going to be looking to change things up coming into Game 2. We've talked about how he's been working very hard to make it into the top 4 teams, and he's going up against the guy that he replaced. So far, he hasn't been able to show up. Maybe he can change things up coming into Game 2.
Yep, quite possibly. We are just into the loading screen onto the Rift here. If you guys have enjoyed this, make sure you follow ESL on Twitter. It's at ESL UK, and then at ESL and all the other ESL doobie-doobs. And make sure that you buy some Tornado Energy, because it's actually one of the nicer tasting energy drinks on the market. A lot of them don't taste that nice. But,
and while you're drinking it, make sure that you're nice and comfortable on your need for seat, because that is something that everyone needs, because if you're not comfortable, you can't really enjoy the true gaming experience on your AOC monitor that is so wonderful to look at thanks to those SanDisk hard drives. So make sure you do check all those out, because they're so beautiful things to have.
We are on to the Rift, guys. Waiting on the game start. I expect a pause, because that always seems to happen when it's a UK game. But maybe there won't be. Maybe there won't be a pause. Maybe there won't be. We haven't seen a Yasuo yet. I'd like to see a Yasuo play this.
Well, actually, because they've now hotfixed the changes to Warlord's Bloodlust. And the thing that made Yasuo so ridiculously strong in this patch was that he now had sustain by going full crit. And that was a little bit ridiculous, but now he doesn't quite have as much sustain, so not really that surprising to see it less and less. But we are going to be jumping on to the Rift at long last for Game 2 of this best-of-3 series between Exertus Esports and Choke Gaming. Remember that the winner of this could very well be sitting in second place, maybe even first place, depending on how tomorrow's standings play out, as Exertus look for a gank.
Yeah, Numlock dodges off the hook there and will just be able to walk himself away. He's gone for that flash teleport again on the Olaf. Some people go for Ghost on the Olaf top instead, but we've seen both of the top laners here going for Flash. Both times Olaf been on the red side. And I think actually that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for Sir Scott this game, because it's harder to peel back when you have an Olaf in your face.
Really is. But last game we saw how much work that Olaf actually did onto Jokerism. When he was trying to throw out that bullet time, he basically said, "Hi, look at me, I'm standing perfectly still for an Olaf to run on top of my face." And that did make Jokerism's life a little bit difficult, but now that that's been taken away, and that they're running an Alistar on support rather than a Morgana, it should be easier to provide a little bit more protection for Jokerism, because, you know, Aurelia as a champion is just a little bit easier to peel relative to an Olaf. So keep an eye out on that, and as well as that, Sir Scott's mechanics are going to be very important coming into his ability to kite around this Numlock. So
and this is the first lane swap we're seeing of the 5.22 patch here at the ESL UK Premiership. It's going to be Sir Scott and Wiz facing up in the top lane versus Numlocked, and they can really try and lock that Olaf out of the fight. He's gone Corrupting Potion as well. Actually looks like he's going to help his Lee Sin double jungle for now, because Corrupting Potion gives you good ability to trade in your lane, but when you're up against the 2v1, it's a lot more difficult to win those fights.
Yeah, the safest thing to do in this situation is just to double jungle. The top laner will get less experience due to the changes in the jungle. So now, if you have the jungle item, you just get given more jungle experience. So the whole double jungle process isn't as efficient as it used to be, which is why you're seeing less and less of it these days. But you still have to do it
it's a delayed
situation.
3-man invade here. That's really unfortunate. We see Exertus trying to put the pressure down onto Dongs and Numlocked in the jungle. They didn't realize they'd done the double jungle and done it as quickly as they had. And they're not able to get around and stop that red buff being taken. It really slows down Dan and Miv and Rain in the jungle as well.
You can see actually that Jokerism and Haddo have gone for a very early push, whereas Sir Scott and Wiz have gone for more of a slow push strat. So what they've decided is, as you saw, they were trying to set up for an invade. What they were hoping for was that Sir Scott would set up a slow push with the minions in the top lane. Dan and Miv and Rain could go in, steal the enemy red buff, and then they could all rotate up into the top lane with a big minion wave and go for that 4-man push onto the top lane tower. Because they weren't able to execute the invade properly, they didn't have the levels that they needed, and that means that they aren't going to go for that 4-man push in the top lane. But because of the positioning of Choke, they are going to be able to get it, meaning they're going to take this tier 1 tower in the bottom lane very, very quickly, set up a nice bounce in favor of Numlocked, as it does look like Dongs is going to steal away the red buff.
Yeah, it does. Nice smite there to steal away that red. And actually, MF really good at pushing towers because of that love tap passive. It works on towers as well. So you get extra damage down onto towers if you're utilizing those auto attacks well. They get the first tower of the game. They're 1,000 gold ahead already. And with Numlock there, they're going to keep pushing this lane up more and more. Towers, of course, take a lot more damage in the early game now. And it looks like they're going to try and push this up to a tier 2.
This is very smart play from them. I think that they could look to get a lot of damage down onto this tier 2 tower, especially seeing as Sir Scott and Wiz are still hammering onto that tier 1. They do have a minion wave available to them. Dan doesn't have the wave clear available. They may very well be able to pick this one up.
Yeah, they might. It's already down to almost half HP. Jokerism, Dongs, the Haddo, and Numlock doing a great job here for Choke. This will rocket them ahead in gold. Still no top tower even taken on the side of Exertus, and the Haddo, Numlock does have his TP up, so he can back to base and try and get up towards that top lane to stop Sir Scott and Wiz pushing onto that tower. I mean, it's almost down. It looks like they should get one, but they're definitely not going to get 2 towers.
Very smart play coming out from Choke. I praise the macro level decision making coming out from Exertus last game, but all of a sudden that's flipped around in favor of Choke. They immediately responded to the lane swap very intelligently. They're able to pick up their red buff, they follow it with the blue buff, and they can very nicely transition down, go for the 3-man push onto the tier 1, make sure that Dongs and Numlocks both get level 3, and then with the 4-man level 3 push, they're able to get the tier 2 tower in the bottom lane. Very smart macro play coming out from Choke. Right now, they're sitting on a 1,000 gold lead, as well as getting the first dragon of the game. I'm very impressed with how Choke have changed things up.
Yeah, and they've only lost out a little bit on CS in the MF versus Vayne matchup as well. They're 8 CS behind, yes, but has picked up that Caulfield's Warhammer, and Raveno's going to put some damage down onto Alchemist. The charm comes in, here comes Dogs, the flash comes out, counter flash though, and Wiz is going to pull Raveno up towards that tower. Exhaust comes down, Raveno's flashed away, and here comes Dan. We'll get first blood, and Dogs get knocked up as well. He has got his flash to get away though, doesn't need to use it as the Haddo comes bounding into lane, but first blood goes across to Exertus.
And this is a problem for Raveno. His over-aggressive tendencies starting to hurt him very early on into the early game. Burning that flash to go for that aggressive play did not work out due to the great positioning from Wiz to turn that one around. Exertus able to pick up that first blood. Still sitting behind in goal, but I think they're going to be pretty happy with that play.
Oh, definitely. And a tower is Tower's gold that's always going to be on the map. Kills are a lot more difficult to pick up. Towers, as we saw in the last game, if you macro play properly, you can quite easily secure them for your team. And now Joker's and the Haddo are going to put some pressure down onto mid lane. Raveno here as well. Dan, the only defender. Joker's going to try and get some points of HP off of this tower. Shouldn't be able to do too much with Dan there. The charm does land. It's going to put a lot of pressure down onto that Rek'Sai. One more also would have been enough, but he will escape. The love tap not quite loving enough. Wiz not in the best positions here. A nice flash double pulverize there. Numlock doesn't hit the undertow though, no slow. And the condemn comes out, it's going to knock him back. Dongs is here, going to get onto Wiz and try and slow them down. He gets hooked in, he's going to get played back into the tower. And here comes the TP. Dongs is flashed away. Can Scott get the kill? Yes, he can. Now he can keep chasing because Midrange joined the fray. Going to jump onto Numlock, who flashes away. The Haddo doesn't have his flash though. He's used it earlier in the fight. Gets played black gorgeously by Wiz, and he'll pick up the kill. What a good bit of play there by Exertus. You talk about macro where their micros on points as well.
Damn, Exertus are just capitalizing on such massive mistakes coming out from Choke. I don't know why Choke are trying so hard to force all these plays. You saw the aggressive flash coming out in the mid lane, and again a very aggressive flash coming out from the top lane. I don't know why they felt that they actually had the damage with the level 4 numlocks onto Sir Scott and Wiz. They're trying to turn things around.
He's got his ultimate available, so Scott jumps in. Missed the charm earlier on, so Raveno has nothing to follow up on this, and even with 5 members of Choke there, they're not able to do much. Raveno needs to be really careful because here comes Alchemist. It's the Master versus the Student, and the Student will just about escape. Dongs goes in, but here comes Wiz. The gravity field's enough.
No flash.
The hook comes down as well. There's the play. He has got safeguard though if he wants to get away. Dongs will keep running, and there's a good pulverize by Haddo in the background. Dongs is going to go down to the Siphon Power, and once again, Choke over aggressive in their jungle, get picked up by Exertus. Raveno! Double kill for Alchemist. Truly, who is the Master and who's the Padawan here? Well, Raveno goes back to base and gets taken out by the power of the Force.
Well, he felt as though after the last game he needed to step up his play. He was tired of Sir Scott getting all the credit along with Dan, and he was like, remember that this is my UK scene, and he demonstrated it right there, picking himself a very early double kill to have a commanding performance in this early game. What looked like a great start for Choke has suddenly turned around horribly with their over-aggressive plays. And this is it, Exertus, very intelligent team. They're making smart decisions, and they're just capitalizing on the mistakes of Choke, and this is what we praised them so heavily about in the last game. They're repeating that performance in this game. They're now 5-0, 1,500 gold in the leads. Very great stuff coming out from Exertus.
The really good thing for Exertus as well is they've got those kills spread across all members of their team. Mivin Rain has one, you've got one on Dan, you've got 2 on Alchemist in the mid lane, and so Scott's picked up his own as well. He's got that Zeal already, and Raveno being given away the blue buff, given across the blue buff here actually, is going to help him out in the lane a little bit, but he needs to be careful because Alchemist has shown that he could just take those kills when he wants them.
Definitely can. He's decided to go for the Mark II Hex Core, which means that both his Siphon Strike and his Death Ray are going to be upgraded. He's going to get a bit of movement speed very early on, as well as the double laser, as I like to call it, that it will be doing a large amount of damage in this early game, and It's just great from Exertus. I'm very impressed. This isn't what we're used to seeing. With the addition of Alchemist, their whole playstyle just seems to have changed up. They seem to be such more of a smarter team, I suppose that's the easiest way to say it. In the past, they've been so disjointed, they've been so scruffy. Usually they've just been winning games off of their superior mechanics. But now, since bringing Alchemist into this series, not only are Alchemist and Scott former choke members, but you can see how impactful they've been in this game.
Needs to be a little bit careful. Ragnarok's been popped. Dong's going to get stunned up with the Equilibrium Strike, but he's going to get chased down. Numlock has a lot of damage here. Dong's almost goes down. He will go down. Mivenvale picks up 1-for-1 in a 2v1, and Numlock now not in a good position at all. Doesn't even have flash. Dan's going to pop that Stalker's Blade. Should be able to pick up the kill. Tries to go for the second knockup, won't have it. And here comes the Scott to clean it up. KS applies to Scott, but it won't matter because he's now 2-0.
Yeah, that was all Sir Scott right there. Dan really only came up to do a bit of extra damage as Sir Scott really the facilitator in that bottom lane gank to get a kill onto Numlocked. Great play coming out from him. And the thing is, you can see how well Mivenrain actually is at this Irelia. Being able to turn around a 2 versus 1, still able to get a kill off the back of Dongs going for a very aggressive build path, resulted in, overall, Exertus coming out in a 2-for-1. And this is pretty much a repeat of what we saw in the last game, except this time it's just Choke pretty much giving away the early game over to Exertus rather than Dan having to exert his pressure throughout the map.
Yeah, it's just been, like, after Choke had that great push in the bottom lane and picked up 2 towers, it felt almost like they were overconfident and they just thought they could do whatever they wanted with the Rift, and they've lost kill after kill. Played very, very aggressively for a position they really weren't in. Now Dan's going to come in onto Jokerism and onto the Haddo. Haddo pops the ult. Is it going to be enough? The bullet time goes out, but Mivenvale can just jump onto him. Transcendent Blade comes out. Meanwhile, there's a fight in the bot lane, so Scott almost goes down, but Dogs will get locked away. Numlock now the target, and Wisdom to Scott will back away. The Haddo being chased in top. Dan and Rain should not struggle with this at all. Or maybe they will, because the Haddo knocks Dan back, and Mivenvale not actually on the highest of HP. Dan's going to keep chasing. Haddo is made to flash across the wall. And once again, Exertus pick up 2 kills, lose nothing in trade, and are now 3,000 gold ahead.
Being able to pick up kills all across the map is exactly what Exertus want. Coming into this game too, I don't think we're going to have a late game scaling composition like we saw in the last game. Exertus really want to put their foot on this game very early on. Exertus down right now looking for a gank in the mid.
Yeah, Ravenous going to get locked up. Chaos Storm is huge, and Ravenous will only just get away. On about 2 HP, very, very slippery Fox there to manage to get away. DX Alchemist, however, will get the mid lane tower. They really didn't burn much to get that kill, to get that RV low as well, and they'll go for the first dragon of the game for them, the second of the game all round, because, of course, Dongs and Squad picked up one earlier.
This is such a great play coming out from Exertus. I've talked so much about how this isn't what I was expecting. I felt as though it would go heavily in favor of Choke. I wasn't expecting Alchemist to turn up on the day and be like, alright boys, let me show you why I made Choke what it was. And he is doing a great job in this game too. You have to give credit though to Sir Scott and Miven. You have to give credit to the whole Exertus lineup because Wiz has been playing phenomenally on this Thresh. There is a reason that he is known for the champion. Very early flash hook to set up for that first blood. Throughout the game he's been getting great flays. His positioning has been fantastic. The peel that he's provided has been on point. As well as Dan, constantly hanging around the map, constantly looking for plays to set up for his team. So while you've been giving credit to all the laners of Exertus, you have to give credit to that support backline that's always there, helping them out.
Dan at the moment is very, very stronger than Dongs. Dongs really had a difficult game, a difficult couple of games. Hasn't shown what he can do on this Lee Sin. Didn't show up really on the Mundo in the last game. And just have to wonder when you have an early pressuring jungler who really isn't putting any early pressure down, what can your team do around that? The Haddo gets caught up, he's popped, and that might be, he's gonna go down. Actually, Ravno does take out his master in the mid lane. Alchemist goes down. Did still have flash up as well, which is interesting to see that Ravno was able to win out that fight.
I do believe it was actually a 2 versus 1. Dongs did give him a bit of a helping hand. So Alchemist felt as though that he could take on both his young student as well as his friend. Turned out that he couldn't, ended up paying for it with his life. A little bit of overconfidence coming out from Alchemist, but I don't think he's going to be too upset about that because the rest of his team was able to pick up a kill on Haddo. Mid laner for support, not the best trade, but still a 1-for-1 going across for each team. And off the back of that, Exertus are able to pick themselves up the Rift Herald, which is going to go over to Sir Scott. So he's going to now try and put some pressure down up in the top lane. Maybe look to get some damage down onto the top lane tier 2 tower, but I imagine he's going to go for a back fairly soon. Look to pick up that rapid fire cannon.
Yes, a huge item spike for that Vayne. A little bit of extra range is all you really need on a Vayne, especially when you have the mechanics that Sir Scott has been demonstrating. Alchemist, given across his blue buff, has a perfect Hex Core now, so all of his skills are augmented. Everything is ready and raring to go, and that's exactly what we've seen from Exertus thus far. They've been on point this entire game with their rotations, with their map play, with their mechanics, and with their skill.
Very impressive performance, but very underwhelming performance coming up from Choke. They've recently come in with a brand new lineup. Numlocked moving in from the Turkish LCS. He brought Ravano with him from the Turkish LCS, playing in a different team. Jokerism, bit of a rising AD carry, formerly of XL Esports, and Haddo's been in the UK scene for a very long time. Dong's fairly new to the scene, but still a very relevant jungler from what we've seen in the UK Premiership in the past. And coming into this game, I expected more from them. They were very much about the early game, very much about setting up these team fights, going for these very early aggressive plays. But now with Dongs coming in, it's very easy to see how Plex was a large facilitator of that early aggression. And with him gone, they're not the same Choke that we used to.
Are you saying that Jokerism's a bad player? Because it feels like that's what you're saying. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Rain is fighting up versus Dongs and Numlock. They do manage to pick up the kill. And Dadno not in a good position. Dongs picks up his first kill of the game. A great fight by Numlock and Dongs to pick up 2-0 in a 2v2.
So, great advantage being regained for Choke Gaming. I was talking about how where is the Choke from old? And that is the sort of Choke from old that we're used to seeing. Very much about this skirmish-heavy style playstyle. Very much about looking for fights when they can. Numlocked baits Rain into a position where they go for the 2 versus 2. And even though Dongs is a level down, he has gone for the very aggressive build path. And because of a beautiful Dragon's Rage, they were able to pick themselves up a double kill. So very nice exchange going in favor of Choke.
Yeah, one thing that Numlock's done really well in this game is farm. He's 40 CS up over Rain. Yes, he's not had the easiest of times in the game, but still managing to get that CS under his belt. Has picked up a Black Cleaver already. He's got that Corrupting Potion as well. And with those 2 towers being down in the bottom lane as well, it gives them the opportunities to set up ganks, to set up plays in the bot, to try and do interesting little map rotations to get kills in the bot lane.
And do you know what really gives Numlocked the energy to make sure that he is constantly going for these fights, constantly going for that farm and making sure that he's active?
Oh, good flash by Alchemist to get away from the Dragon's Rage kick. Dongs with his insect mechanics, less insect and more cockroach there. Wasn't quite able to get round to kick Alchemist back towards Ravano.
Unfortunately, wasn't able to make that work for him. And it did, unfortunately, happen midway through my plug as I was trying to promote Tornado Energy Drink, which gives you the energy needed to come out ahead in these team fights.
Wait. It's great, mate. Good plug. Good plug.
Right now, the Dragon's going to be spawning in about 45 seconds.
Yeah. Dragon's spawning, mate. Interesting stuff. Do you want to plug Sandisk or Need for Seat while the Dragon spawns? Imagine if the Dragon had a seat, guys! Wouldn't that be incredible? Need for Seat, that's what you all need.
The thing is, if you're going to be watching the Dragon animation, what better way to do it than on an AOC monitor? Do you know what I mean?
It's true, it's true. The reason he spawns so quickly as well is that he's loaded by Sandisk. Meanwhile, Rain in the top lane just pushing up. There's still 1 tower available for them. All the 3 inner towers up for Choke, whereas they've only got, of course, they took that bottom one very, very quickly on the side of Exertus. They've only got top and mid. Still some gold left on these maps, still some objectives to be found. Oh, the charm lands onto Wiz as he flashes in. That was gorgeous. That was point blank range, and Ravano will get himself away. As the flash came in, he hits the charm, and Wiz shut down for another day.
Yeah, so Wiz is not going to have that flash available now coming into these next few fights, but with the Dragon spawning and Choke not really in a position to contest, it's not going to hurt him that much, as it does look like the second Dragon, or third Dragon of the game, is going to go in favor of Exertus. Still in full control of this map, the gold lead not quite as big as it was in the past, as ever since losing that 2 versus 2 in the bottom lane, Exertus seem to have lost a bit of their momentum, and this is something that seems to be fairly relevant for Exertus. In the last game, we saw that when they lost their momentum a little bit, they stopped making these plays around the map. They went back into Farm Simulator 2000 and just waited for Choke to make another mistake. Now, while that isn't necessarily a bad strategy, it's not necessarily the most ideal. Trying to constantly capitalize on the mistakes very much relies on the opponents to make the mistakes. And while Choke have done that so far, you need to take it a little bit of a step further if you're looking to really contest the finals of the UK scene.
Well, they do manage to pick up the bottom lane in the tower. Alchemist locking him out. Scott gets trapped. Scott's down. There's no way you escape from that main. And Dongs will go on a very long voyage chasing Wiz and Dan through. Numlock's TP'ing. Wiz is going to get knocked back into the team. He's going to get taken out. The Thresh Prince of Bel-Air is no more. And we're going to see Dan chase away here. The Undertow doesn't hit from Numlock as he tries to flash in. Dan might actually be able to escape unless Dongs can connect with the Sonic Wave, which he can. You can chase at Dan for days as he burrows away once more. Meanwhile, Aurelia still pushing the top lane. Mib and Rain either needs to come and help or needs to get away from there because there's 4 members of Choke running towards this top lane. Mib and Rain's just like, I'll get the tower boys, and now he's going to go down to Numlock. He's going to chase him out. The Haddo here to chase out Dan, and Dongs and Dan meet once more in the jungle. Mib and Rain's going to jump onto Dongs. Mib and Rain might escape with the Transcendent Blades. It looks like he's got out of this one. Joker isn't pushing mid lane, needs to be careful. He's not going to get the tower down as the DX Alchemist Chaos Storm is chasing him down. Doesn't actually decide to use the ultimate, doesn't decide to chase anymore, but Mib and Rain did escape, and they only lost Dan while getting that top lane tower.
Very long, drawn-out fight for both sides right there, and it all stemmed off of Sir Scott being caught out of position off of a beautiful charm coming out from Ravano. I talked about how this is one of his go-to champions, how in the past, especially against FM Esports, he pretty much single-handedly carried the game. So far, he hasn't had quite the performance, but as the game's been going on, as he's been warming himself up, he's gradually been getting better and better at landing those charms, and landing that one onto Sir Scott was very impactful. They were able to pick up a number of kills. The problem for Choke is that they just got too greedy. They chased down all across the map, and sure, they were able to pick up the kill, but they end up losing the tier 2 tower in the top lane, and they're not able to get the tier 1 tower in the middle lane. Big misplay from Choke, as it does look like Miven needs to be very careful.
He does. There is a Dan coming up here, but there's a Dongs as well, and Dongs will find his mark. Choking the life out of Miven Rain. Dan was on his way up, but wasn't there in time. And once more, Miven Rain chokes on Dongs.
That was a very nice advantage gained for Choke Gaming once again. Slowly been working their way back into the game, capitalizing on the mispositioning of Exertus right now, and this has been pretty much the story of Exertus throughout this series. They tend to have a good early game, they get a nice advantage, then they lose a little bit of momentum because they make a bit of a misplay, and then all of their great intelligent macro play just seems to disappear. They tend to fall back into their shell and being very much about, okay, I'm going to wait for Choke to make a mistake and then we'll capitalize and try and close out the game. But so far, Choke have been stepping up their game, and they've been the one making these great plays to capitalize on the mispositioning and the mistakes of Exertus. Really turning things around.
I mean, Exertus still have the gold lead, they still have those 2 dragons to 1, but Vision contested around Baron here. Exertus need to be very cautious about what they do. We've seen how strong Choke can be at picking someone out with the charm, even with the Olaf chasing. We haven't seen that many great bullet time combos yet, but Dongs is actually stepping up to the plate. Didn't have a good early game, now he's starting to pull off those mechanics, now he's starting to get those kicks down. And if he can keep doing that, keep catching out Sir Scott or Alchemist, Exertus need to be exceptionally careful when it comes to these team fights.
Yeah, notice how he's 1, 4, and 6. Has been involved in 7 of the 8 kills as the fight kicks off in the mid lane.
Ravana goes very low, but he lands a charm onto Dan. He will just run away with that Spirit Rush and should be able to get away towards safety. Well, a lot of damage down onto Ravana, who is not tanky in the slightest. Almost got his Zhonya's building up towards that now, but needs to get something soon to keep himself alive in these fights.
He definitely does. He has already picked up that death cap, so he's going to be doing a lot of damage, but so is Alchemist. This really is going to be a very interesting matchup between these 2 mid laners. They are looking to try and siege onto this middle lane, as Ravano has gone back. Here we go.
Oh, they're going to engage, and Alchemist gets caught out, but the Haddo gets knocked back with the Condemn and can't land the knocker back onto Alchemist. Dongs is chasing Alchemist. What can he do? The Blanton came in behind him. Dongs is still chasing. He'll get the kill, and that's exactly what Dongs needs to do, because now the rest of Choke can chase down onto Exertus. He's going to get a double knocker with the charm. Wiz is going to go down. So Scott's off towards the side though, and Joker is going to run across towards him and will pick him up. Numlock facing up against Dan. The Transcendent Blaze comes out. Dan will go down to Numlock. Miven Rain picks up the kill, and so Scott miles away from the fight because he got chased out by Ravano and Jokerism.
So, while that was a good team fight for Choke, it was a poorly executed one. You could see their target focus just isn't on point. As a team, they just seem to be so disjointed. Raveno going for the play on the Scott.
Oh, so Scott gets destroyed by Jokerism and Raveno. Absolutely melted away. That's a very strong love tap from the MF, and Raveno cleans up the kill.
Oh, it does look like that things aren't quite over yet, though, as Miven Rain is just going to clean up the farm. So, it does seem to be that I am corrected. And going back to that fight, it was just poor target focus from Choke. Dongs did a phenomenal job of getting onto Alchemist, but where was his support? There was no way for the rest of his team to capitalize because Haddo had already used his full engage combo onto that of Wiz and Scott. And it was just constant, I'm engaging now. Oh, now I'm going to engage. Oh, wait, you've engaged? I'll now engage after that. It was just so disjointed coming out from Choke. And even though they were able to come out ahead, I feel as though they need to fix their target focus coming into these next few team fights because Alchemist is a big threat. He is somebody that they need to lock down. And if they can just come together as a team and concentrate their efforts onto shutting him down, then they should be able to come out ahead in these team fights. We know that it's possible with the team composition they're running. It's just a matter of now, can Choke execute that?
Definitely, and gold almost equal now. Choke very close to evening up this game. They're going to pick up their second dragon to pull them level with Exertus. Exertus not really getting much out of that, knew it was going down, weren't able to pick up the positioning to fight up against it, and the macro play from Choke once more showing its stuff as they pick up another objective for themselves and start to push this mid lane.
I think they're going to be able to easily pick this one up. Just a couple love taps onto that tower is going to result in that dropping, and off the back of that, Choke has suddenly equalized the gold. So, between these two teams, been very swingy. I would argue it's been a very messy game, simply because teams don't know what to do with their lead. They seem to, whenever they get one, just poorly execute their next plan. They're not able to capitalize, not really able to pick up any major objectives, and it's just so back and forth as a result. Right now, both teams sort of posturing around the Baron. That is going to give a favorable position for Exertus as they look to push down the middle lane.
Joker sort of positioning around this one though, and Exertus caught on the wrong side of the map at the moment. Joker's seeing what he can do. I mean, Exertus have the positioning if they want to push down mid lane, but they haven't got the wave. There's no minions here at all. Jokerism now managed to pull himself back towards his tower, and they will just all retreat and defend this mid lane tower.
So notice this game that the difference between the two AD carries is not as big, but there's still a 2,000 gold difference. There's a full item on top of Scott ahead of Jokerism, and that is going to be very impactful coming into these fights because if Jokerism can't get down the damage that he needs, and once again Scott is left to do, or is left to his own devices, it's going to be very rough for the side of Choke. So very important targets that need to be channeled down. I'm curious as to see who Choke decide to focus down, because with Alchemist being a big threat, with Scott being a big threat, it's a tough one to decide who actually the bigger focus target should be. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye on what Numlocked and Dongs decide to do, and Raveno's positioning as well, because there is so much possible threat onto the backline of Exertus that they need to be very wary of coming into these next team fights.
Miven Rain's getting to quite a strong position as well. He's picked up his Ginsus, he's got his Triforce as well, so if he can get onto Jokerism or onto Raveno and keep them locked down, they're really going to struggle to fight up against him. Raveno, very, very big at the moment, almost picked up that Zhonya's, and when he does get that, that's a very strong position for him, because it means that Alchemist isn't just going to be able to burst him down, it means that he doesn't have to be too scared of Dan if Dan burrows in, or of Sir Scott. It just gives him that little bit extra flexibility, that set of cooldowns coming back up again as well. Very, very strong for Ares to have a few rotations of spells in a fight rather than just having the one to try and burst an enemy.
And notice how both mid laners have actually gone for a little bit of a unique trinket. They're going to pick up the Farsight Totem. And the reason that you're going to be seeing this more and more these days is because the Farsight Totem has a ridiculous range. It is a ward that only has 1 health bar, but it is permanent. And it doesn't actually go beyond the... you can go beyond the ward limit. So if you put 3 wards down, you can still put that ward down as well. So there's so much more vision control available to them. It is a great thing to pick up. But as you can see, it's quite easy to clear that vision down. So it is going to be a trinket that you'll see more and more in popularity as we go on, as well as the new sweeper that we have now, the Oracle Lens, also a very popular pickup. The actual yellow trinkets is something that you're going to see less and less of as the day goes on. Right now, both teams posturing around the Baron. Maybe we'll see a fight kick off.
Donks takes quite a bit of damage from that crit from Sir Scott, but just clearing out vision as much as they can. It looks like Choke now have the superior position to push down mid lane. They don't have a minion wave with them once more, but if they can force Exertus to tunnel into a spot to funnel themselves together, with Haddo, they can just tank up this tower, and it looks like, it almost looked like that's what they were going to do. They decide against it, they'll back away, and Exertus are able to just to bring themselves around to defend the tower, but now Choke back away and go straight for that Baron.
They're probably going to use this as an opportunity to get full vision control around the Baron. They feel right now stronger because they've been coming out ahead. Bear in mind that the score originally was 10-2.
Yeah.
And now it's 12-12.
And the gold is now perfectly even as well. Up until now, even though it's been even in kills, they've still been about 2,000 gold behind. They've equalized that by getting these extra towers.
Exactly. Choke have done a great job to work their way back into this game, but it's simply due to the fact that Exertus just don't seem to know what they're doing. They don't know how to use a gold lead, and that's pretty much been the story of this series for them. They get a gold lead in the early game, they're looking insanely strong, they make one misplay, and then they lose all of their momentum. They have no idea what they need to do, and Choke have been capitalizing on that. In Game 1, Choke still made a lot of mistakes, but Game 2, they've really stepped things up, and they have been making very proactive plays that have been working out very heavily in their favor. And this whole stall game that's going on right now, I think is actually working in favor of Choke, but we will have to see, because you cannot underestimate the threat of a late game Vayne, a late game Victor, and a late game Aurelia.
Yeah, it's a very strong threat. It really depends on whether someone gets picked out before the fight starts, because to Scott, if he plays as well mechanically and positionally as he did in the last game, it can be very difficult to take him down. Now you have the threat of Miv and Rain jumping on Jokerism as well. You've got DX Alchemist there with the Gravity Wells, with the damage from the Death Ray just to zone out opponents. It's going to be very hard for Choke to properly capitalize on these fights, but if Dongs picks someone out, if Ravano picks someone out, if Numlock can get onto Sir Scott and not let him get out of his sight, it's going to be even harder for Exertus to win the fight. It really depends on how the start of the fight goes and how these teams play around each other.
Exactly, and the target focus from Choke is going to be the really important thing for me. If they can just work together to focus a target together, I think that they will very easily come out ahead in these fights. Right now, it actually looks like Exertus going for a very aggressive
target. They're focusing down this Baron. It's down to about 6,000 HP, but here come Choke. And they do just back away, deciding not to go for it. So Scott actually hangs around in the river to try and clear out these wards. He needs to be careful, because as much as he can be aggressive and he's very mechanically sound, all it takes is a charm. All it takes is a Dragon's Rage kick to get him out of this. And Haddo's actually going to walk up to Wiz. The box comes down. Dan coming up to the side though. He's going to knock up two, but there's none of his team here. Dan's down before anything could go. A beautiful flash knock up by Haddo, and Alchemist is going to get locked out. Donks picks up the kill. Now he's going to chase into Sir Scott, who has to flash across the wall, but the bullet time will help them get up the kill. And Sir Scott, oh, the heals! Crit's heal! Crit's heal! I cannot believe it! Sir Scott, can he do it? No, he can't! He's going to go down, but it was so close! Sir Scott almost pulls a double lift, almost pulls a superb bit of Vayne play out of his hat, but Crit's healing not quite enough for him, and Choke take the fight.
That Vayne was truly glorious right there. Fantastic performance coming out from Scott, but it just wasn't quite enough. And this time, it was the rest of Exertus not being able to capitalize, but the fight's not done yet.
They've stopped the Baron. This is great from Exertus. Blade's going to come out from Wiz. Yes, they'll pick up the kill. Oh, Miv and Rain goes in. You shouldn't have gone in. He will pick up one. He won't pick up two. They have delayed this Baron enough, though, when they've removed the tank from Choke. So there will be no Baron picked up here for Choke. They do lose another two members, though.
Alright, so that fight, going back to the start, was all about Dan going into a beautiful flank, but the rest of his team was not in a position to follow up. This is what I was talking about was a problem for Choke. And what I was saying in terms of Choke need to pick a target and focus it, Dan made it super easy for them. He was like, okay guys, focus me, I'm completely on my own. They easily bring him down. Haddo then gets a beautiful 3-man knocker, which is very easy to follow up on. They immediately take Alchemist down, they follow up with Sir Scott, and this is the target focus that I wanted to see coming out from Choke, really stepping up their game. They go for the Baron, but Exertus do a good job of peeling them off it, and yeah, they lose a couple kills, but they do deny that Baron threat, which means that they can reset and come back to it at a later date. Really nice to see from Choke how they've developed throughout the series. Initially, really struggling in these team fights, seemed to be very off in terms of how they executed it, but now they finally get the team fight that they want after so long, and they're able to come out ahead.
Yes, they are, and remember this. It's the second game of a best-of-3 here between Exertus and Choke, and the loser of this will end up facing Team Infused in the semi-finals. The unstoppable, the indomitable, the incredible force that is Team Infused at the moment, and something both these teams will desperately be trying to avoid.
Certainly will be. Bear in mind that we will see Infused play up against FM tomorrow, and that is going to be one hell of an exciting matchup. I cannot wait to see a bit of an El Clasico for the UK scene. Dongs are going very aggressive.
Yeah, but Wiz misses the hook, and Dongs is able to safeguard his way away to a ward. Jokerism was in the top lane here. Gonna try and come down, so Scott is in an awful position. Look at this Hado and Dongs, but there's a Numlocked in the bush and they didn't realise. Numlock pops the Ragnarok, he's Ragnarocking, he picks up his first kill. Meanwhile, Wiz is taken out by Jokers, and so Scott does pick up one, and the Hado not in a good position now. So Scott's gonna pick up two, it's 3v3, but the bullet time comes in. Vivid May gets charmed in gorgeously by Ravino. Dongs knocks away Scott, who's trying to heal it. So Scott v3, and even the greatest of AD carries couldn't pull that one off. He'll back away. Choke Gaming will rotate up towards mid lane, maybe go for the Baron here as well. So Scott's decided to split push. There's no TPs here left on the side of Choke, so Scott might actually be able to pick up an inhibitor tower here if he pushes fast enough.
That Ragnaroked Alchemist on the bat line, there was absolutely nothing that he could do about it. Even with the flash available, with the gravity field, it just was not enough as Numlocked face rolls over Alchemist, and with him completely out of the fight, it is very easy cleanup for the rest of Choke. They executed that fight perfectly, and okay, Hado and Dongs were left onto the back line, but they bought enough time for the rest of Choke to capitalize, set up for the charm into the bullet time, which was perfect coming out from Ravino and Jokerism. I talked about how Ravino on this Ahri is just so good. It's one of his go-to champions, very familiar, very proficient, and he executed it perfectly in that late game team fight, as well as Jokerism finally able to get the fight that he wants, now at 4-1 and 8, really having an impact in these team fights.
Yeah, really getting in his team, like it's so surprising because he was 008 and 007, and since then he's just picked up kill after kill. He's picked up the Lord Dominic's regards and doing all that extra damage to Miv and Rain and Dan and Wiz as they get up close and personal with him, really helping him out. He's played it's an incredibly passive AD carry. From what we see in the current meta, AD carries are these aggressive frontliners, you know, Graves, Vayne, even with Tristana, you can really get up in people's faces, whereas MF just standing back, love tapping, leading people on, and then just wrecking them with the bullet time, absolutely melting away their health bars, and just doing a superb job of it here. Jokerism not as bad as you think he is, Videos.
I wish we'd stop this. Jokerism is a very good friend of mine. I used to play on a team with him, just saying. But yeah, it does look like
doesn't
right now...
excuse you calling him bad, mate. Doesn't excuse you.
Right now, though, does look like that Choke looking to use this Baron. They have got Numlocked up in the top lane trying to set up a split push. We've already seen how great he is in the dueling situation. With that Black Cleaver, Frozen Heart, Sterix Gauge completed, he's going to be doing a huge amount of damage. And with the changes to more of Malmortius, I think that is going to be very impactful, especially on the Olaf. So keep an eye out on that. Does look like they're rotating up into the top lane, trying to take this tier 2 tower. Yeah,
it should be a free tower for them. Look at the damage coming out from Numlocked and Jokerism. Melted away, and now they're going to push for the inhibitor tower. It actually looks like Numlock's going to back, maybe decide to split push a different lane. Dragon up in a minute and a half, so they do have that to play around as well. Will be their fourth of the game. Oh, Dongs goes in, he tries to get him, maybe he gets locked up straight away. There comes the box. Dongs will escape, the bullet time goes out. Alchemist gets caught up by Ravino, and Ravino will pick up the kill. He's legendary. So Scott's getting chased out by Numlock, because this is exactly what you want your Viking to do. So Scott actually picks up the kill. He's going to keep trying to get it, but Ravino picks up a triple kill. The army has been unleashed, and Choke Gaming choked the life out of Exertus and look to make this 1-1 in this best of 3.
It is so nice to see that Choke have finally stepped up their game and have executed these team fights perfectly, one after another after another. They're going to be taking this game 2. They're going to equalize the series 1-1. We're going to be going to a game 3, Sona.
What a game. It was almost a mirror image of the game before. It's like, oh, you know what happened? Choke will go for the Baron, so Scott will backdoor, then the only thing that didn't happen was then Exertus won the game. Because Choke just played superbly well. Jokerism stayed safer. Ravano had that kill potential. Dongs finally showed up and actually showed us his skills and his mechanics. And having Numlock there just to chase down Sir Scott eliminated him from the fight, which meant that they had the time to kill the rest of the team. And then Sir Scott by himself could not 1v5.
You have to give massive credit to Hado, though. Throughout that game, he was always landing those headbutt pulverizers onto so many targets. I don't exactly know how many he got, but I'm pretty sure it was a lot. And his positioning was just so good. Very early on into the game, Choke weren't able to capitalize on those engages, but as the game went on, as Ravano started doing damage, as Jokerism started doing damage, they suddenly started capitalizing on those initiations and really ran away with the game. Very impressive performance coming out from Choke. I'm super excited to see what they bring out in game 3, because they are going to be on the red side this game, and so far, they're actually going to be on the blue side this game, and so far, blue side has not been working out for either side. Everything to play for coming into game 3. Very important series.
It's been amazing, guys. We'll be right back with the final game of this best of 3 between Choke and Exertus Gaming. Make sure you stay tuned and make sure you drink your Tornado Energy and the other sponsors that we have, SanDisk and AOC and Need for Seats. Very comfortable seats, I find. So we'll be right back, guys. Stay tuned.